Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Aisha Khan, an ambitious, open-minded and proud Muslim woman. Looking back at the Islamic history, it will not be hard to find women who are innovative, leaders or entrepreneurs. It is said that the property of Lady Khadija, the Prophet ﷺ's first wife, financed Islam in its infancy. Islam then elevated the position of women in so many ways. Join me as I set out to go on dates with Muslim women from all walks of life to find out who they are, what they do, and what role Islam plays in their lives. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Meet and Greet show with yours truly, Aisha Khan. Today, I am going to meet a lady whom you are all very familiar with. You have heard her voice on radio, you have seen her on your television screens, and now it is time to get to know her story. With 18 years of experience in the media industry, this is the journey of one of the most celebrated journalists in the country, Jamila Mohammed. With humble beginnings at Iqra FM, Jamila transitioned into television in the year 2002 as a news reporter and later grew as an editor and graced managerial positions. And today, she is the Swahili managing editor and news anchor at Royal Media Services. I am finally at the Monaco Hotel with a very lovely and beautiful Kenya's top anchor and reporter, Jamila Mohammed. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you actually had me on the show finally.
It's an honor having you here.
Thank you.
Well, Jamila, let's go back from Kericho to Nairobi. And today, the managing editor at Kenya's top TV station. How did it all begin?
As you said, from Kericho, I was born in Kericho. You know, you may don't like saying the age, but I'll still say it. I was born 38 years ago in Kericho. I'm the second in a family of 5. Actually, we are many. I have stepbrothers and sisters, but my mom, I was second. And life was very simple back then. I remember in Kericho with just growing up, running around. It rained all the time.
Yeah, and they have very fertile land there.
They do. So it was a good life, but things changed in 1989 when my father passed away. I was about 8 years old. He died from lung cancer. So and our lives just changed drastically. He was the sole breadwinner, I think. Yeah. And I said life was good for us when we were younger, because I remember we used to have this big house, and I think we were the first to have a color television and a video. We used to call it a VHS player. And all our neighbors' kids would come to our house to watch TV. And then when my father passed away, all that changed. Yeah. My mother hadn't gone to school. And I remember during my father was alive, she had learned how to sew clothes. She went for tailoring classes, and then she also went for adult education, so she could read and write and maybe sign stuff and all that. Yeah. She used to make all our clothes. I remember even our school uniform, and she'd even make clothes for our neighbors' kids to make a bit of money. So we really struggled quite a bit after my father passed away. I remember one of the first things that happened was my brother, he's 2 years older than I am, my sister took him to live with her. That was, I think he was 10, 11 years old. In fact, I tell him that we're getting to know each other now in adulthood, because he was taken when he was so young, lived with my sister throughout, went to high school, uni, medical school, he's a doctor now. So we were getting to know each other again as adults, because we didn't spend a lot of time together as kids. And then the other thing was our house, we had to rent out most of it. So we were left with, I think, 2 rooms. So for me and my mom and my siblings. Yeah. So at least we could rent out the rest of that and get a bit of money. The good thing is those days school fees was 60 shillings a term. So at least we were able to afford that and go to school, and it wasn't fast, so we didn't have to worry about transport. But then life was still hard. I remember we even used to do the mabuyus. You know, I learned how to do the mabuyu thing on the candle. Even ice cream. And we used to sell it for a shilling. And then even my sister and I were reminding each other recently how we'd even sell skuma and nyanya and all that outside our house. But for us it was fun, it was an adventure. And we remember all that, and we were laughing about it, and that was how it was then. Then when I was in class 7, my mom moved to Nairobi. My older siblings, my brothers and sisters, decided that it would be easier for us to move to Nairobi, rent out that house, and we did. We moved to Nairobi, we lived in Ngara for some time. Then when I finished class 8, my mom and my younger siblings moved back to Kericho. And I'd already gotten admission into high school in Ngara Girls, and they thought it wouldn't be good to uproot me again from school. So they left me there, and they went back to Kericho. And I was put into boarding school, Ngara Girls. That was a new chapter. I keep saying my high school was a daze, because I think I wasn't really happy because I was away from my mother.
Yeah.
But I understood the circumstances why she had to go away, because life was cheaper in Kericho. She'd be able to take care of my siblings better. And then, so I was there till Form 4. I think one thing that, I don't want to make people fall away for me, but I remember I never used to be visited much in school during visiting days.
Yeah.
But
so you would see other people and their parents coming to visit.
Oh yeah,
them,
like a whole truck, a whole mat full of people coming to visit one person.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't have anybody come to see. But I really didn't expect it, and I didn't want my mom to come all the way, and I didn't want to make my sister come from her home to come in, because she had little kids.
Yeah.
So, but I had friends who really literally like almost adopted me. So I wouldn't really feel that loneliness, like kuna mtu amekuja kuniona.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was in Form 4, my brother had finished high school. He used to save his bus fare, and he'd come and letea chips na kuku. So at least mtu amenivisit.
So cute.
I know.
Yeah.
And I did the exact same thing for my sister, because she came to Ngara Girls after I left. So during visiting, I'd do the same thing. I'd save my bus fare.
You know how it felt.
Yes. So like at least mtu mmoja amekuja kukuona.
Yeah.
But I say these things just shape you somehow. Yeah. So that was it. Then when I finished high school, I was staying with my sister in South Bay, and those days we used to do, there was a lot, computers were the in thing. So everyone managed to do a computer course. So I managed to do a course at IIT. So when I finished, I didn't know what to do next. I'll take you back a bit. When I was in high school, when I was in Form 4, I remember when we were finishing, people would record messages on a cassette recorder for our friends, just to say bye and all that. So when I recorded once and it was played back, my friends were saying, "You sound so good.
Such a beautiful
on
voice.
radio, you should think about doing journalism."
Yeah.
So that was in the back of my mind for a long time. So when I finished my course, and I kept thinking, KMC iko wapi? Kenya Institute of Mass Communication. It was right in South B, but I didn't know where it was. Kuwa na Google, sijui nini utafute. There was nothing like that. So I was like, where is this KMC? I didn't know where it was. Then one day I was listening to the radio, and I heard about an Islamic station that was coming up. So there was a number there. They're saying we have a station coming up and all that. Call. So I called the number. A lady called Zamzam Kabeberi, she's a Rivati. She picked up the call, and I told her about myself. So she said, "We've already shortlisted people for an interview, but you can still come. You sound like you have the passion and you're willing to work and all that." So I remember we went for an interview at SUPChem offices, and there were all these people there who had sent in their CVs in good time. They had been shortlisted, called in for an interview.
And there you are coming very late.
With nothing, with just like a piece of paper. I had no work experience at all. The only thing I had were my certificates from college for computers. So they did, everybody was interviewed, I was the last one. So I go in there, and they're asking me all these questions about whether I've done any journalism work, and I'm like, no, what have you worked? I had no experience literally. The only thing I had working for me was I was willing to try anything. So they made me read a paper, I remember, and then they're like, okay, we'll take you on as a salesperson. I was like, fine, at least it's a job. So I went, and they used to be at Bandari Plaza in Westlands. That's Iqra FM now, when they were starting in the year 2000.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went there, and I did sales for a bit. I realized I wasn't very good at it. So one day, one of the newsreaders didn't show up. For some reason, I don't know what happened to her. The station manager at the time just said, "Kuja usome news." So like, oh goodness. So I hadn't been behind a mic ever. Yeah. So I did. So he saw some potential in me. So I started doing bulletins and there. So that's how I moved.
What was your first experience like reading the news?
You know, on radio, no one is seeing you. You have no audience. It's just you and the mic and all that. So it wasn't so bad. And I read a lot. So I was just telling myself, this is like I'm just reading a book. I'm just reading it loud. That's how I was able to do the first one. So I realized I'm actually good at this. I could tell stories, I could
much
write.
better than
sales. So like I just need to go out to a political rally or whatever it is and do a story.
Yeah.
So I did that for 2 years. Then in 2002, a friend of mine told me that Nation TV were looking for TV anchors, Swahili anchors. Wow. So they said they're having screen tests, come and give it a try. So I went. So she was, Munira was a good friend of mine. We went through a lot together. In fact, right now we keep reminding each other. We used to work such long hours. We'd go to work before 5 a.m. because the station has to be open before Swala. So we'd be at work by 5, which means they pick you up at 4. And then we'd still be there at 11 p.m. at night because the last bulletin was at 10, I think 10:30. So we'd do the bulletin, then leave. And then in the evening, we'd take a matatu. So from Westlands to town, and then I used to live in South Bay. So Munira and another colleague of ours used to take me all the way to my bus stage, number 11, South Bay, for me to go home. And then they'd go to theirs. So we used to do that almost every night. And then, so we were very close.
Yeah.
So when the invitation came, when I was told about the screen test, we went together. And then we did it, and a few days later they called me. They said they had only spot for one. We were really both good, but they couldn't take one person. So they took me, they called me for an interview. So there I am, went for the interview. And then I go into this room, it's full of people. I think they were senior management for television at the time.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, we saw your screen test, we like it, we'll give you a chance, but we're not sure about the scarf on your head.
Yes, was that, now that's a topic of discussion, the hijab.
Yes. So I was jolted a bit, like, really? Because they said there's no one else who's reading news hijab on television, and we're not sure how this will be. Lucky enough, there were two Muslim ladies in that panel. One is Fatuma Hetsi, who's the PS for tourism right now, and the other is a lady called Fatma Bashir, who was the manager for programming at the time there. Yeah. So they said, let's give her a chance. I think they really spoke for me, because I stepped out, and then they called me back, and they said, we'll give you a chance. But if people don't like it, you're gone. And
at that time, what was running in your head?
I kept thinking, there is no I'm going to read a bulletin without hijab. My God, I kept thinking about the backlash. I was thinking, Ya Allah, coming from Iqra FM, an Islamic station, and then I'm seen on television without hijab, what would happen? And I always tell myself, whenever I do anything, my father is always at the back of my mind. I keep saying, would he be proud of me? What would he think? Until today, whenever anything good happens to me, even when I got married, I had my kids, I win an award, or I get a promotion at work, I keep thinking about him. What would he think? Would he be happy? And all that. So I was like, if I don't get this, okay, I'll go back to Iqra. So lucky enough, they called me back and they said, we'll give you a chance. Wow. So that was in August, I think, September, I'm not sure, I think around August. So I worked for a month without being on air. And then one day, the station manager, just out of the blues, he's a guy called Mutegi Njao, he's a veteran journalist, he said, unasoma news leo. That was around 1. I was like, oh goodness gracious.
I think that's your luck, because even in Iqra, you were just like, today you're reading the news.
Thrown into the deep end.
It's just like thrown there and you have to do it.
I was like, subhanallah. Okay, fine, I'll do it. So I called my mom, I'm going on air today. She said, don't worry, just tawakkal to Allah, you'll be fine, don't worry about it. You know, you can do this, you know, all those.
Very true.
Yeah, confident. And I'd never read a bulletin. I'd looked at it, I'd seen an auto cue before with the screen test, that's the news, the news prompter, the teleprompter. I hadn't had a lot of practice because when I arrived there, I started becoming a reporter and I was running around the field. So he said, unasoma news leo. That was around 1. I'm like, okay, so I'll do it. So at 7, I was in studio. So I kept thinking, I was telling myself, I'm not going to think about the thousands of people who are watching me, because if I think about that, I'll lose my head.
Just mess
yeah. So I told myself, I'm telling my mom, this is what happened today. So Hoyo, this is what happened. That's how I go through my first bulletin. So it was over. I was like, did I do a good job? Will this guy say we are in there? Then the news director at the time, the lady called Liz, said, Ebu skiza. So I had the earpiece. So there's a way they could connect the phone to the newsroom. And people were cheering for me.
Oh my, wow.
Like, I must have read really well if people
were
cheering for me. So she said, you see, that's what people thought about your bulletin. So the next morning I went to see the MD and they were showing me all the comments from people about my reading, and not a single person said anything about the hijab on my head. It's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it invisible, like it was just a person reading the bulletin, and it has never come up.
Let me just take you back a bit.
Yes.
How supportive has the Muslim community been? Are there any attacks that you have got?
No, not really. I do get a few, not really like direct attacks. Sometimes people say, your voice is supposed to be aura, why do you have makeup on television, and all that. But it hasn't really been violent. I think for most people, they are proud of the fact that I was the first hijabi on television, and maybe open doors for a lot of Muslim girls who are on television now with the hijab. And I would say, I've not really been attacked much, honestly.
MashaAllah, that's
Alhamdulillah,
very nice.
Alhamdulillah. I get a lot of, we're proud of you and what you do and how you inspire our girls and all that. So Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
Tell me about some of your struggles in your career path. There was once you had a facial nerve pulse.
Yes.
How did that affect you?
Oh wow, I had a facial nerve palsy when I was at Iqra. They call it Bell's palsy. One side of my face just went this way, like my mouth was literally on this side. I was at work and people were telling me, look, your face looks funny. Like, what do you mean my face looks funny? Yeah. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, my mouth was literally moving to one side. My mouth was here. So, and then I started feeling it on one side of my of my hand, the right side. And it was because of fatigue and the long hours we used to work and the cold in the morning. So I needed therapy for some time and medication to be able to get back. It took a while. I actually had niqab for a while because of that. But alhamdulillah, it hasn't come back yet. But whenever it's cold, I sometimes feel the twinge on one side. But alhamdulillah. But for me, one of the biggest struggles is being a career woman and a mom.
Wow. Jamila, before we get there,
yes.
we need to take a break.
Okay.
We'll be taking a short break, so do not move a muscle. As in the next segment, we will get to know Jamila on a more personal level. So don't go nowhere.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Welcome back. For those of you who are joining us right now, I am at the Monarch Hotel with our very own top 254 Swahili TV reporter stroke anchor, Jamila Mohammed. Welcome back to the show.
Shukran.
Jamila, before we took a break, let's get, we were talking about your personal life. Let's get into that.
Okay.
You know, being a career lady, how do you manage to strike a balance between being a wife, a mother, and again, a career lady?
You know, I always say that you'll never have everything perfect. Not everything will work out perfectly as you want it to. So something will always suffer. Yeah, I remember when I had my kids throughout my 20s. And during that time, I was at Nation, at NTV, and I realized I wasn't growing in terms of my career at all. I was at the same place for almost 7 years. And I tried my best to be able to do my job well, read news and all that. One thing I'll thank NMG for is they gave me a lot of support. I used to do the early morning shift. So I'd leave the baby sleeping, and then I'd go to work around 5 a.m. or 4:35, do the morning shift, and then by 11 I'm done. I can go home, so I get to spend time with the kids. So I did that for a while. And then I used to do the evening bulletins. Those were hard. I don't know if I can say this, but there are instances when I'd be on air and my milk would leak, literally. And I was reading the bulletin, and then I keep thinking about my child, probably Analia, and I'm at work. But those things actually shape you. And I realized my career was stagnant. I wasn't moving. And remember, I hadn't done a degree. I got my job with a college certificate. And I remember I really wanted to go to school. In fact, it's
what prompted you
to go back to school? It was a promise. Actually, it's my husband who prompted me.
How did you meet your husband?
I met through a relative. An aunt of mine met him. And then through another friend. And she was like, this guy would be good for one of my nieces. We are several. Then he was to meet a cousin of mine, but I don't know how, but that didn't work out. I still don't know how that happened. And then my aunt called me and she said, I really want you to meet this guy. And she had never said anything like that to me before. And I said, but you know, I want to work, I want to do all these things, go to school and all that. She said, no, just meet him for me. I really like him and I think he's a good guy. So I agreed to meet him for her. And then he called my workplace in the morning on the landline there. Then he said, I'm so-and-so, your aunt told you about me. I said, yeah. I said, I want to see you. I said, but I didn't really expect him to come the same day. So that day I was doing news on radio on Nation FM. So at 1:30, I finished the bulletin, came out, I was told there's someone waiting for you downstairs at the reception. So they're very strict about just letting anyone come up. So I picked the line and the lady said, there's a guy who was insisting that you were to meet today. So I said, okay, let me speak to him. So I speak to him, he says, I'm so-and-so and all that. Like, okay, so I went down. And then I met him, and then we went for lunch. So that's how we met. And I was like, he's not a bad guy. And for him, he even tells me now that from the word go, when he met me, he said he wanted to marry me.
I knew you were the one.
I just said I knew you. And he wasn't so sure. But I tell him now that the only thing I'd change is I'd marry you sooner than I did then. Because
so how long have you been married for now?
We've been married for about 16 years now.
MashaAllah.
And he's amazing. Alhamdulillah, he's so supportive. You know, with the kind of job I do.
That is so beautiful.
I go on there. I travel. That is, I tell him I need to travel to The Hague for a month. I'm like, it's okay, just go. I need to go to Sudan to do this. I need to go to Ethiopia for this. I need to go to Uganda for the elections. I need to go to South Sudan for the referendum. Things like that. And he was so supportive. And I always say I manage because of the support system around me. My mom has been with me, alhamdulillah, throughout. And I had a very good house help who was with me for years. I think 12, 13 years. So I'd leave and I'd travel and they'll be okay. And I think he says he supports my dream because I supported his. Like throughout, when I had all the small kids, his work would take him away quite a bit. So he was in Uganda or Swaziland or South Africa or Mozambique or whatever. In fact, when Rahma was born, my youngest child, he left. He left when I was pregnant, came back. I just had the baby. When she was 2 weeks old, he went away. He came back when she was 7 months old. So his work was all over. But I managed to keep somehow my head above water. I always say, kama sikusahau mtoto shuleni, kama sikumsahau kwa clinic, you know, yes, then I think I'm doing a good job. So after my daughter was born, alhamdulillah, he said, and I remember those days, he gave me a promise. He said, I promise you will go to school. You want to go to school? Inshallah, you will go.
So beautiful.
I know, right?
This is like the dream couple right here.
Alhamdulillah, you support each other. It's very important that he supports your dream and he understands how important it is for you. You'll be a better wife, a better mother, a better companion, a better friend if you're able to do what you want. Yeah. Because if he had, I think he had refused to let me be a career woman, a journalist, I don't think I'd be able to support him or be.
And you wouldn't be happy.
I wouldn't be happy. I'd be a sad woman.
Very true. Jamila, how many kids do you have? And what is your relationship as a mother with them?
I have 5 kids. I have two daughters and 3 sons. My relationship with them is, you know, they're approaching they're teenagers now. And I realize when they're young, you have to keep an eye on them all the time because they're young. And they are getting into everything and you have to be asianguke, aswalike. And one of my sons had speech difficulties for the longest time, Abdul Hakim. He talked when he was almost 6 years old. So he wouldn't say anything. And we were told he was autistic and he had all these issues when he was younger. And we used to go for speech therapy a lot. We used to go from one doctor to another because he wasn't saying anything at all. He would run and walk and everything, but he wouldn't say anything. And I remember one time I asked him to just do something simple. I think I told him, close the door, and he was just looking at me like, what are you saying? He couldn't even understand a simple instruction like close the door.
That is so painful.
It was very difficult. And I remember, I asked Allah, why this? But something, I think Allah showed me something. I remember that particular day I was despairing. We took him for one of his therapy sessions. And then the little boy around his age was brought in. And Abdullah was running around, playing a ball, jumping up and down, doing all these crazy things. And this boy was brought in and he was paralyzed from the neck down. He wasn't walking, he was being carried. And I said, this is Allah's way of showing me that alhamdulillah, your son is running and walking and all. The talking will come. And alhamdulillah, when he was age 5, he started talking, saying simple things. And that was it. He didn't have baby talk. He just talked and he's alhamdulillah, he's fine. So I went through all that with them. But now that they're teenagers, you have to try now, and the world, the way it is with technology and all these things around them. So one thing, I try to be their friend, really, like, what's up, what's going on, how was your day, how this, and we try and do all these things together, like pray together, salah together, we all eat together at the same time, we spend time together. And I am not mtu wa kuchapa. I don't know, I can't. Maybe I'll
very cool, calm and collected as,
I can't
as what I can see.
Yeah, I can't.
Very nice.
Hit you on the hand like this, like, why did you do that? But their father is a disciplinarian. When he chaps us once, we'll have peace for a year. So they know
there's a balance.
There's a balance, good cop, bad cop. So he always says, I make him look like the bad cop. But I can't chapa that much. But he's their friend. There are things he does with them that I can't. They play football, they walk to do where, they do all those things. Me, I don't with them. So we try to find a way to get it right. Of course, you make mistakes here and there. But alhamdulillah, I wish I had more time with them. I always say this, my hours are very long. I go to work at 8:30 in the morning and I leave at 8 p.m. at night. But with my job at Citizen, I live near the office. So I go home lunchtime for Salah and for lunch I'm at home. I can rush in at 4 and see how they're doing, spend a few minutes and come back. But as I said, support is important, especially from your spouse. You won't be able to do any of these things if he didn't have his support. And it's because of him I went back to university when Rahma was a few months old. I got my degree in journalism. Alhamdulillah, I did so well. I got first class honors, so I got a full scholarship for my master's, which I did at University of Nairobi. I graduated in 2016 with an MA in conflict management. So alhamdulillah.
So are we looking forward to a PhD?
Inshallah, God, I'm trying to see. I think that would be inshallah.
Session 2.
Yes, that should be the next chapter. Because I keep thinking now, I tell my kids, I think I want to go back to school. Like, why? You know, because at 3 a.m. to read, to finish an assignment, I have to go to work. I used to sleep 32 hours.
I can imagine.
To finish assignment and I used to tell myself, this is my chance you know, when you go to school and you're older,
Sure.
you're like, this is a second chance for me to be able to do it. So you don't want to waste it. So you do your best. You sit at the front of the class, you're answering all the questions. I'm the kind of person, if the teacher says you have a surprise cut, I'm like, yay. You know, things like that.
You're very good. You've been reading and up to date.
All the time.
Yeah. Jamila, you have been in the media industry for 18 good years.
Yeah.
But you have managed to have a very private life being a public figure. There's no much scandal about you. How?
I think because I compartmentalize, I always say that. I know when I'm at work, that's me, Jamila, TV anchor, you know, editor and all that. Then I leave the office building, all that I leave it behind. Now I'm Mama Mohammed and Rahma, I'm Ahmed's wife, I'm Zainab's daughter, you know, all those things. And I always tell myself that these things come and go. And I want, when people think about me, they think of me as this career person who does this. I want to, I always say this, when my father, if he was alive, would he be proud of me or what I do? I always say that all those young girls who look up to me, want to be journalists.
Like me.
What would they think if they had, I was in a scandal here and there?
Yeah,
and of
very
course, the
true.
ultimate thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't want to do things that would displease him. So of
Very
course, there are a lot of temptations, there are a lot of opportunities to mess up. So it's just up to you to be able to realize that all this is an opportunity and a gift from Allah to be able to do this on this large platform and be in the public eye. So how you handle it and you manage it is now up to you.
You have won the Teenies Award 4 years in a row.
I remember, my God.
Tell me about that.
I was surprised my first year on television, I won an award. And again and again, and I was thinking, why? What would they give me an award? In fact, I remember one of them, I went to pick it when I was heavily pregnant. I was about 7 months pregnant. And I won a Teenies Award. So that was good. I actually have the trophies in my office. They remind me of a time when I was a favorite of teenagers, on television. And for me, it was extra special because they kept nominating me and I was winning with a hijab. Literally, with my hijab, and I'd win favorite TV presenter of the year at the Chagola Teenies Awards. Yeah. So that was amazing.
I actually grew up watching you.
Making me
I
feel
can
old.
imagine. No. I can imagine, what the other youth think of you. And mashallah, that's amazing.
Alhamdulillah.
Jamila, what is that one thing people do not know about you? That one secret, very secretive as it is.
Really, but I actually speak Hindi. I speak very good Hindi.
What?
It's because of where I grew up. Where I grew up in Kericho, they called it Bombay Square. So there were a few Indians. And then also, we used to watch those Indian movies when we were kids. And I don't know, somehow when you're a child, you pick up these things very quickly.
Very true.
And then when I went to school, at the school I was in primary, when we moved to Nairobi, my good friends were Indians. So we had practiced with them. And then high school also, I'd practice with them. And I don't know, with time, I got better at it. So even when I watch Hindi films or a Hindi program, I even watch NDTV 24/7. It's an Indian TV news channel. And I watch it, I'm like,
Can I test you?
Yeah, sure.
Well, let me throw you a line. It's very simple, because I'm not very good at Hindi. I think you're better at me. Jamila, aap kaise ho?
Main theek hu, aap kaise hai?
Oh my God, main theek hu. This is so cute. So guys, I've just confirmed that she can speak very good Hindi.
I speak Hindi, so it helps. And even at Nation, I had colleagues who are Indian, and we'd have this Hindi talk fest. We even have meetings in Hindi from beginning to end, I remember.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I need to up my game.
Yeah, we'd have a meeting and they'd come in and we'd talk about, these are the plans and the strategies, and they'd leave and the whole thing was in Hindi. And sometimes I don't realize that we've had a full meeting in Hindi until someone points it out, like, you're all speaking Hindi throughout.
Do you like eating Indian food?
Yes, I do.
Dal,
roti. I like, my favorite is makhani chicken, the butter one. So my favorite restaurant, in fact, is Agiti in Westlands. Yes, so I like going there. Yeah.
That's amazing. Jamila, many people look up to you, they admire you. Who is your role model?
Wow, my role model for me is my mom. I say it because of all she went through to take care of us. And she still remains her happy, humble self, even after all. In fact, sometimes I tell myself, did I dream all that we went through, all the struggles we went through with my mom? Because she's always happy, always, these days she moves from one house to another to see her grandkids, and she always comes to check on mine. I think she comes to see whether I'm taking care of them well. And my brothers and sisters and I actually told ourselves, we vowed that she would never want for anything We'll all work hard, we'll break our backs to take care of her. She's still this serene, happy woman. And I keep asking myself, how did she do it? Why didn't she get married young? Because my father was so much older than her.
Yeah.
She had all of us. My brother, I think she had my brother when she was 17. I was me when she was 19. My father died before she was 30. She was like 27 years old when he passed away, and she never remarried. And she never remarried. He was way older than she was. I think he was almost over 30 years older than her. And she never remarried. So I asked her the other day, I was like, "Ma, why didn't you ever get married?" She said, "I didn't want another man to come in and not treat you well, and I thought I'd do well by you." And I hear her and I see how she is, and I tell myself, wow, that my mom is my hero, my role model.
Inshallah. And I'm sure she's going to watch this and she's going to hear this.
Yeah, I'm her favorite child. She didn't say it.
You just had to.
I'm serious, I'm her favorite child. She actually said in front of all of us, she said, "I love you all very much."
Yeah.
Jamila is my favorite child. Wow. No, that's the highlight of my year.
Before we wind up this show, Jamila, what message do you have to tell girls and women out there who are aspiring to be great journalists like you?
I tell them to go for it and not be afraid. I know for a fact that sometimes our society holds us back as women because they feel being in the public eye is not good. I'll tell you for free that most of the girls who have come, Muslim girls who have come as interns or junior reporters, are amazing. They work their hardest. I think in the back of their minds they know that they have to work harder to prove themselves. One of the best journalists I know, Zainab Wandati, is a Muslim girl. She's a business editor at NTV. She's super amazing. And she's just one of many. Miss Swale Zingiz is an editor with me. She's a Muslim lady, super hard worker.
You're also supposed to have her on the show very soon.
Oh, inshallah. Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, Lulu is another one, Hassan, Mona Hamisi, Hamadi. I see these girls and I tell myself that, look at them, they've done it. You know, when you think about the top Swahili anchors in Kenya, I think the top 5 names are all Muslim women.
Mashallah.
Yeah? Mashallah. So I tell the journalists, the girls who are looking at me, and they want to go for it. If you're good at it, go for it. Just remember one thing. Don't let the fame and the TV and the attention get to your head. Because at the end of it all, we have to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Very true.
Keep your modesty in check. Dress as you should. Put your hijab on and just do your work. You're there to do a job, to pass a message, to realize a dream, and have all that at the front of your mind. Don't let the fame, because that's one thing I've realized that happens to a lot of people when they get on television. It gets to their minds and humility just goes out of the window so fast. So being humble is very, very important. And don't burn bridges. That's another thing I realized. This industry is so small.
Yeah. You don't know who will help you.
Yeah. Umekosea watu at NMG.
Sure.
And then you go somewhere else, and then the person who was on that side comes and becomes your boss here, and then you're desperate now, you need a job, and you co-said someone else. So I always say that this industry is very small, so don't burn bridges. If you're leaving, live in a good way. Say thank you, I'm resigning, do your notice, then go somewhere else. So much so that when you sit and like, if I go back there and ask for a job again, they'll give it to me, because you kuondoka kwa ubaya.
Wow. Jamila, thank you so much for gracing the Meet and Greet show. May Allah bless you, and may you keep inspiring girls like me and women out there.
Ameen, inshallah. And thank you so much for having me. Thank you, and wish you all the best in your career.
Thank
inshallah.
you so much. This is like the highlight of my career. We have come to the end of the Meet and Greet show. I am totally inspired, and I'm sure that you are too. From Jamila Mohammed's story, we come to learn that all great things have humble beginnings. I have been your host, Aisha Khan. Goodbye for now. Ma'assalam. Until next time.
The Meet and Greet show with Aisha Khan was shot on location at the Monarch Hotel, your one-stop halal certified hotel.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.